How the heck could a woman in her 30s do a video on menopause? You might ask. And I probably wouldn't question why you'd ask that. What the heck could I possibly know about that? But I will say, being a nurse, knowing a thing or two about biology and the human body, and also a recovering perfectionist orthorexia person who used to be terribly, very preoccupied with my body and all of its little changes. And, if I had a little bit of dairy or gluten, I could see the inflammation in the next day. And if my bowel movements weren't perfect, I would be wondering what happened and upset about it, or if they weren't on time or whatever. Okay, so I know what it's like to be body aware, to be health conscious, to know about body changes and the science behind it. I know all of that kind of stuff. And my intention is to share the off the grid kind of stuff for people like you who are saying, why can't I get rid of this belly weight? Why can't I get rid of the menopause trajectory of gaining weight and not being able to lose it? And I gotta say that I know that it's a myth that just because you're going through menopause does not mean you can't lose weight. You absolutely can lose weight. I've seen it happen for hundreds and hundreds of women that were all in menopause states and they were able to lose the weight. By golly, they all did. They really can. And you can too. And so, something that happens, obviously, here talking about hypnosis and me being the NLP unconscious mind gal, is that we realize, and what I really care about is what else is going on in the background. It's like we are our thoughts. Whatever you're thinking becomes your reality, whether we like it or not. And so I'll tell you a story, and that was how I had it in my mind. And I want you to take a look for yourself, and we'll tie it into menopause. That once I turned 30, I could kind of settle in. For whatever reason, my picture of 30 years old was kind of like relaxed in my body. And so, as soon as I turned 30, or like right as I was coming up against around 30, guess what started to happen? I wasn't able to stick to my food plan the way that I could just 6 months prior to that. For years, I stayed on my diet. For years, I was perfect on all the things that I was doing. And then 30 comes around, and all of a sudden, I can't stick to it. I'm starting to gain weight. What's happening? What's wrong with me? Why can't I stick to my plan? Like, what? I don't understand. Like, binging started. Like, weird things started happening. And then I realized that I was getting exactly what I wanted because I had a definition in my mind that 30 meant feeling relaxed in my body and not having to care about my image so much externally. And so I got exactly what I wanted. So my question to you as you're experiencing menopause is it possible that you're also getting exactly what you want? You see, there's so many things that are tied into menopause around weight gain and that you can't lose weight. It's like everybody's been telling us, like it's woven into our society that menopause means we can't lose weight. Again, it doesn't mean that the science isn't real, right? I know physiologically what happens, but I also know that you can actually lose weight, but your belief could be what's holding you back from either owning and honoring the fact that maybe menopause meant like being in your 50s and 60s or whatever and relaxing into your body and not having to care about weight as much anymore. Like, what you have right now is exactly what you want? I know there's pain, I know there's suffering, I know that there's like wanting to be somewhere else and that uphill kind of struggle and battle that you might be experiencing. And I felt that too. And I still had to acknowledge what gave me the inner peace was acknowledging the fact that, hey, I'm actually getting absolutely what I want here. So I talked primarily, our clients are in menopause type of stage of their life. And it's an interesting time for people. Kids are moving out of the house. Relationships are either maybe going through some challenging times, or maybe because the kids are moving out, like you're looking at your relationship stuff now. Maybe you're not in a relationship. Maybe there's some fears around dating. Maybe there's some things from the past coming up. Maybe you have aging parents right now that you're taking care of. Maybe you're even having thoughts about like what's going to happen. Like I'm kind of in like this end period of my life. Like I'm kind of getting up there now. For everybody, it's different. Aging in general, like there's fears around that. I see this all the time. It's totally normal. And all of that stuff put together, the belief systems you have about menopause, the belief systems you have about being the age you are today, the different things that are going on emotionally and life-wise, et cetera, in your life. Like, is that actually the reason why you can't lose weight? You see, sometimes it's really easy to slap these labels on and just be like, well, it's menopause. You can't lose weight in menopause. And it almost becomes like a way out sometimes. Or an innocent way of literally thinking that that's what it is. And in fact, it's not what it is at all. Only you can know that answer for yourself. I'm not one to try to stand here and say, I know that it's your mind or emotions or your stress or it's your body. And that was the one thing that, you know, when I was working as a nurse in the kidney transplant unit, the neurosurgical ICU, yes, you get your labs back, you get a diagnosis, you work on that, you get a medication, whatever, right? Like, but what about what's accounted for with the way that you feel about stuff? Dr. Joe Dispenza did a research study on all these spontaneous remissions of all these people who normally would have passed away from their diagnosis, and they all survived, and none of them should have, according to statistics. And so he studied them. They all spontaneously remiss, like a miracle. Not all of them believed in science. Not all of them believed in medicine. Not all of them believed in God. Not all of them did juice cleanses or fasts or whatever. Vitamin C infusions, chemotherapy. None of them did any of that stuff the same. But the one thing they all had in common was that they all believed with 100% certainty that whatever they did was going to cure them. They believed it. Belief is everything. I used to believe I was a food addict. Guess how I acted around sweets? Like an addict. My binging happened because I believed I was an addict. So what's happening because you believe that you have the menopause thing happening? And I'm not saying you don't. You might. You do. And there's impacts of that. But mind over matter. I remember when I first started following that I followed a super strict food program. No sugar, no flour, weighing and measuring everything. Like perfect, perfect, perfect all the time. And when I did that, it was great while it was working. And then as soon as I came off that, it wasn't working. But when I first started it and I was like detoxing from sugar and everything else, the leader of the program said she was down and out for 6 months. She was so emotionally like just drained and physically and mentally drained. So guess what happened to me? I was physically and mentally drained every single day. And then all of a sudden one day I woke up and I was like, wait a second, like I do hypnosis. Like I don't have to be mentally and physically drained for 6 months. Like that's happening because I'm believing that based on what someone else told me I should feel like. I did hypnosis, I did some NLP tools, and I was up taking a jog the next second and the fatigue went away. All of that to illustrate how powerful that your mind is. If society has been telling you menopause is going to cause weight gain, you might be gaining weight because society tells you that. Some food to consider. What are you believing about menopause, and how may it actually be playing a part in the struggles that you're having today in relation to it? That's what we're all about. If you haven't started listening to the Hypnosis for Permanent Weight Loss podcast, I have an actual full episode on this with menopause. It's one of our most listened to episodes. You can go and check that out, and we'll see you next time.